All right, so welcome to yet another class of our software testing bootcamp. I hope you all had a great week. Um, and to start off, we will look at the assignments you guys did because I think you guys did pretty amazing. But also, yeah, we're gonna use that opportunity to to get real-time feedbacks and yeah, and make the test better. But I was really happy with the feedback. I was really excited with the amount of effort you guys put. So that's really, really commendable. All right. So for starters, we're gonna look at the problem or the lab or the assignment, or however you want to call it. And make it bigger. So, and we're gonna work step by step. So I'm gonna start with let me see, let me pick one of those that submitted the earliest, and I'm going to use their stuff to start fixing or making changes, right? But in all, I think you guys did amazing. So let me see. I think I have Constance. I can't really tell which one is for Constance, but I think it should be this one. All right. So let's see. Let's look at the question again. I'm gonna pick this up. So the question is, write a test case for the registration page, and these are the requirements, right? So user can only register with a valid email. So let's see what Constance put up. As a matter of fact, let me just open that of everyone's, so I can just go back and forth and give feedback. The turn up was really nice. I was really happy you guys took the time to complete the assignment actually. So let's see. We're gonna open this one up with Chrome. Great. All right. So we're gonna roll up. We have quite a number of screens on our monitor right now, but we're gonna try to go one after the other. So let's see. Let me pull up the test again. So let's look at it. So when you get uh a feature. So normally you call this a feature, right? This is a use case or a feature, a use case that supposedly needs to be done. So in reality, or in most situations, this stuff has not been built yet. So it's like, okay, we have a registration page, or we are going to build a registration page, and we want the testers to already prepare tests for it. Now, in some cases, well, depending on what time you join the company, it could be that the company already have the product, and they're like, okay, guys, would you write test cases for them? But yeah, we're just gonna assume right now that this page was not existing, and the developers are gonna develop this text. So we're gonna look at it requirement by requirement and see if we have tests that cover those requirements, right? So the first requirement here is the user can only register with a valid email address. So um, if we take a look at, I'm just gonna pick this one. So we see verify successful registration with a valid email address. So I see the first step here. I don't know whose this is, but should this be you? Good, good example. So let's see. We say open registration page. So the first feedback I would like to give to this particular example here is it's good to number it. So I see there is no numbering. So when you write test cases in this format, please be sure to number it. I see most of you did that. So you see this is nice. So you know exactly where it starts and stops. It's quite clear. So very good. So open the registration page. So yeah, I feel personally open the registration page is very vague. What like I want to test open the registration page. You see, I'm lost already as a tester. You understand? So you don't want to do that. You want to be more specific. So let's see what others had. I also have open the registration page here. I also have this is a better one. You see this? Go to enquete.com then proceed to the registration page. So go to eket.com. For me as a tester now, I know exactly where I need to go. You understand? So it's very nice to put the exact location and then proceed to the registration page. Proceed to the registration page is also not very clear. What is it? Proceed. What is that? I don't know what that means. So you want to be more explicit, right? So let's pick up another one. Let's see. So another thing, feedback here, please. Numbering is very important, but this is also nicer. So you see, go to enquete.com, click on register. So that is exactly how, if you go to the website, you see exactly. If I was following this instruction, I will probably not get lost. So I'll say enquete.com. So I'm following these instructions, right? Let me see. So it says, go to enquete.com. I'm on enquete.com. Click on click on register. So I see register here. But also, um, if you notice, I'm not actually seeing register here. I'm seeing registreren. And probably this is because it's not English. So, which begs to say, at least that was what I was hoping you guys would do, because as a tester, you want to, because you guys already have access to the site, you guys know what we're testing. You want to ask questions like, okay, are we going to test all the languages or are we going to test the English? You get it? So, you see, as a tester, if I was following this, I would be lost already here. I don't know what to do because I come here, I don't see register. I see registreren, I see inlog. I don't know. I'm assuming I don't speak Dutch. I'm like, I don't know what this is. You get it? So the point I'm trying to make is you want to be very explicit so that another tester can follow your instructions to the letter, right? So yeah, so probably what you want to put here is um, go to enquete.com, uh, and so let's pick one someone's let's pick someone's stuff and use it as an example. So I am going to use this as an example. Let me see who has this. Okay, I don't know who has this, but we're gonna use this as an example. Yeah. So the description is nice. User successfully register with a valid email and password. So this would be probably go. Oh, sorry. Let's make this. So remember, the goal here is you want to be explicit as possible so that another tester would not have problem following your instruction. So this would be something like along the lines of go go to enquete.com, select the English language from the language option. Or, so if I do this, it makes sense because it means go here, come down here and select English. But also, if you did that, you would see that you have a different URL. So you could just copy the URL and say, if you don't want to write too long, you just say go to Enquete, just put the URL here. So you see, you say go to enquete.com/en. So if the person just copies this now and goes to the website, it takes them directly to where you want them to be. So this is very important. That's where you want to be very critical as a tester because you came to the website, you have so many languages, and you want to ask the question to the like, oh, am I going to do we test all languages? You want to ask either the team or you as a tester actually want to test all languages. That's what you want to do. But you during the meeting, or I expected you guys to ask me, yo guys, we have different languages here. We tested everything. You understand? But ideally, testers test all languages if that is the goal. So, but now we're gonna focus only on English. But in the real world, you will test all the languages you find here. So when you're done with English, you go to the Netherlands, you go to Dutch, you go to French, and you go to Portuguese. Portuguese. You understand? So that's just remember that. Okay. So you want to really look at the whole picture. Don't look at half of the picture, and don't say, "Oh, I've tested English. Then I'm not going to test." No, don't do that. As a tester, you're testing everything. Your goal is to find mistakes. Your goal is to find errors. So that means for every test you wrote, every text case, you will have it like 5 times. So that would be one for English, one for NL, one for, so you literally have it 5 times. So like this particular test case one would appear 5 times because five different languages two can be okay, but the other three could be total nonsense. So you want to test all five of them. So you see how critical this is. So but now we're gonna focus on that. So go to this URL. So that's good. Enter a valid email address. So I saw you guys do this a lot. What is a valid email address? Do you understand? So what if someone tested with, uh, 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 yeah, I don't know. What if someone tested with, I don't know, let's say info at mimi.ca.za. Is this valid? I don't know. But this is actually a valid email, but you want to be specific. So what I did see a lot of you did is you just assumed the other tester knows what a valid email address. No, you preferably want to be explicit. Very, very explicit. So how would you say this? Uh, you could just say enter enter the email test one at um, yahoo.com. You see this? When you do it like this, all testers will test the same way. All testers. So if you take this script now and you give it to 10 testers, they will do exactly what is in here. But if you say enter an email, tester one will use info, tester two will use Darlington, tester three will use Ifeanyi, tester four will use Constance, then you're not sure if everything was tested the right way. You get it? So you want to be very, very direct. The same thing with enter password. So you say you say something like enter password is at least no. Just put enter password and you put exactly what you want. So you say enter password. So it would be hello. Uh, let's see. So one number, right? Let's see. What was the requirement? Let's take a look at the requirement again. So we had 6 characters long. Needs to have a capital, a special character, and at least a number. So and a special character. So let's put a special character. So that's yeah, this is 6 in total. So again, if you give this to a tester, everybody's gonna test the same way now because you were very explicit, right? So let's make this like this. Then click on register button. So let's see. Let's go to the. Sorry. Let's go back here. So we have. Okay. So this was also not part of the requirement. Let me see. So I also noticed. Okay. All right. So this is part of the instructions. But however, if you guys visited this registration page, I was also expecting you guys to ask, what about name? Should we put a name? Should we allow the name or not? Because that's what you guys as testers have to do. You have to like poke the or question the requirements to make sure that you get the full picture. Because if you had navigated to this registration page, you will see full name here. So I was expecting those questions because that's what you're gonna do in the meetings that you guys attend. Like, okay, we have what about full name? Are we taking that off? Are we adding it? You want to ask those questions, right? So, but for now, I'm not gonna add that, and we'll just assume it's just the two, and you click on register. Now, let's look at the expected results. Registration is successful. A validation email is sent. So this is actually not complete. So this test is not complete because if I did this and I register, registration successful, okay. Validation email is sent to the provided email, okay. So it has to be more of an instruction. So let's go further. Let's take uh, uh, what do you call it? Let's say after you click on the registration button, let's make this enter uh, the email. So you now say navigate to test ones at yahoo.com, or not navigate, you just say go to the test one email account and verify that the validation email was received. So what do you think I'll do as a tester? I'll go to my email and check if the validation email came in. Now, if it did not come in, that means I'll report a bug or an error back to the developers. But if it came in, because this is you testing that everything works, right? So we assume now it came in, then you say open the validation email and click on the validation button, on the validate button. But yeah, I never said this in the requirements, right? I never said this. So what I was expecting you guys to do, or I would have said it, but I wanted you guys to ask me first. So what you want to ask is, okay, if if the user signs up, what would they see in the validation in the email? What's in there? Then I would have told you there is a validation button in there, or I would have told you there's a link called validation because sometimes it could be a button, sometimes it could be a link. You understand? So what you do not want to do is assume. Don't assume, but I would have told you guys this had to be you guys asked. So I wanted you guys to ask because that's what you should do as a tester. Don't assume. Now it's because I'm the one coming with the requirements. That's why I'm adding this. But you shouldn't add this until you have confirmed it with the business analyst, which is what I am at this moment. So you want to ask questions. You want to be like, okay, I went to the email. I saw a validation email. What is inside? What is it? What do I have to do? Oh, there's a validation button. It could also be that the button's name is not validation. Maybe the button's name is welcome. You understand? But you have to ask the analyst. You want to ask. Don't just go and just assume. No, ask. So now, as an analyst, I'm saying there is a validation button there, and you click on the validation button. So what happens? So your next question is, okay, if I click on the validation button, what happens? What happens? Then the way what I would have answered you guys as an analyst is, uh, you a I'll say a window. So I'll say browser window opens up that confirms your email. Your registration is validated. Now log in with the email address, with the email and password to confirm confirm account was created. So this is it. So this is what I would have told you guys if you guys asked. But you see now, if I gave this test now to any tester, they would do it. They would do it exactly the same way every other tester would do it. So look at the instructions. Go to encat.com, put in this email, put in this password, click on register button, go to the blah 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 email account and verify that the validation money email is received. So I'll go there, I'll see it's received. Open the validation email and click on validate button. So I will go in there, I'll see a validate button, I'll click it. It says a browser will open up that confirms your registration was validated. Sorry, validated. So when I click on it, I'll get a pop-up that says your registration has been validated. Do you understand? Then what's the next thing I'll do? I would log. Oh, even to be very clear. So this is not see. I'm reading it now. I'm seeing that oh, someone could do this differently. I'll just say go back to ncat ncat.com/en and click on login. So I'll say enter the email and password you just, or you enter the email and password you just registered and confirm account was created. Or you say or confirm login was successful. So you see, while I was reading it, I even realized that okay, somebody might do this differently. They'd be like, okay, after I get a validation window that comes up, like okay, validation complete. I go back to enket.com/en, which takes me to the English. I click on login. I enter the email and password that I just registered, which is the step one, and confirm login was successful. So this will make sure that if I send this to 10 testers will do exactly the same thing. Because what you want to try to minimize as a tester is that every tester is testing it their own way. So your test script or your test scripts want to follow the same instructions as much as possible, right? So if you were writing it, this was how I would expect it to do it. So what's the expected result? Registration was successful. A valid email is sent. A validation email is sent, and I'll say something like user can log in uh, with the with the new email and password. So this would be this would be what the expected results would look like. Now, what what do you guys think the precondition could be? So we have. So this is quite interesting. So I was also giving you guys feedback of edge cases, right? I was like, check out edge cases. I don't know if you guys looked up what edge cases are. Edge cases are just some another behavior, another something else probably unexpected that people would could do, and what when I mean people could do with your application, and what type of result would they get if they do something different. So like what we just did here is what we expect everybody to do, but very often people do something different, and they call that you call that edge cases. So remember that term. That term is very important. So you can also Google it up. You just say what is edge case in testing. So I think I saw a very interesting definition somewhere here. Let me see what is edge case. So I see it wasn't here. Let me see edge case. Let me see. I saw a very nice definition. What's an edge case? All right. It says in software development and testing, an edge case is a problem or situation that falls outside normal procedures and on the boundaries of your operating framework. So basically, it's just saying somebody doing something different than what you expect. You understand? So every time you have a test, you want to think, okay, what is an edge case? What could people do differently other than this normal flow? This flow we see here is the flow that you expect everybody to follow and you expect a specific result. This is how normally it should work. And we normally refer to this flow as the happy flow. That's what you refer to it in software testing. So again, keywords, please take notes. So we have edge cases. You can also Google happy flow. Happy flow. So let's see, what is a happy flow? Sometimes known as happy flow, it's the default error-free flow where everything works as expected. So this is the happy flow. This is like, okay, if you follow these steps, it's gonna be fine. But a lot of time, people don't do happy flow. People do weird things. Do you understand? So, uh, all right, I see Chino's raising her hands up, but I'm gonna come back to you in a minute. So, what is an edge case? So I see here that in the precondition, it says user has not registered previously with the provided email. Now, what I was also expecting is this should be a question to the analyst, to the business analyst. So you want to ask the business analyst, can a user register with the same email address multiple times? So I will, because I know the software and I know how it works. The answer will be no. But I'm seeing here that this tester just assumed. You just assumed that, yeah, the user should not be registered before. Now you wanna try as much as possible not to do that. Don't assume. You want to confirm with business analysts because this assumption could be wrong. It could be that the software allows multiple user registration with the same email but maybe not the same password. So you as a tester, you don't want to assume anything you think about that you know you didn't find in the requirements. Please ask the analyst first. You want to ask, or during the meeting that you guys are going to have, we call that refinement meetings. You want to ask these questions. You understand? But even if you forget to ask it during your refinement meetings, when you're writing your test and you're like, wait till I didn't see this requirement in the list. All right, let me ask the analyst. Analyst, can the registration page accept the same email over and over again? Then you get your feedback. And the reason for that is so that you will not, because if you test based on assumption, the quality of the test is not assured because you did not confirm it with the analyst. And don't forget the analyst discussed with the product owner, the product owner discusses with the business, and they get all these requirements sorted out. If not, you'll be building a total software or you'll be testing a different software than what the business actually wants. So imagine now that this your assumption is wrong, then you're going to send this to the tester and say, "Oh, tester, please can you make it possible that you can only register with one email address at a time?" And then the developer goes and does that. By the end of the day, this is not what the business asked you, but you just assumed it. And then it gets to production or whatever happens, and then the business is like, why is it people cannot register with the same email multiple times? And we'd be like, but the tester tested it. The tester assumed certain things. So you don't want to do that. You wanna you wanna if you find something that you feel like, oh wait, something like this, it's only one registration, one email per registration. You confirm it with your requirements. Okay, you look at your requirements. Let's see the requirements. So you look at your requirements and you don't find it there. The next thing you do is you send a message to the analyst and say and ask the question. All right. But in this case, this is correct. So I'm just trying to accentuate why it's important not to assume. If you have anything that you feel like this should be in it, don't just put it there. Check with the analyst. All right. So what other preconditions could we write here? If we look at this email. But before we answer that question, Chidon, so you had a question before you forget it.
My question is about the email. This email you included here, is it the same email every tester should use
That's yeah,
if they're doing a
because I put it
test case?
here explicitly. Explicitly.
So,
That's correct.
so it means that you can
That's
reuse
correct.
the same
But
email multiple times to register.
well, maybe as we go on,
And
we're gonna answer this question because it has to do with this my next question. So what? Just put that in mind. Maybe you also get the answer right. So in line with this step two, what should be a precondition here? Chinoso was trying to bring that out, but what could be a precondition now? So we have a precondition that next time I would like you guys to ask it as a question, and I'll tell you guys, okay, this uh, email needs not to be registered already. So what other precondition could there be, or must there be for this to work, or more or less the rest of this to work? Can you guys think of any other precondition? All right, Chinonso.
maybe to confirm that the email has
Okay,
not
but
been
that's embodied in here.
registered in the
So it
account
says user
before.
has not registered previously with the provided email, so it's already in here as a precondition. You've already checked that. But what other thing for all of this to work? What other thing has to do with this? Okay, so I'll answer that. So the only way you'll be able to complete this with this email address is that an email account already an email account with test1 at yahoo.com already exists. You get it? Because if this does not exist, how can you how can you perform this step? Open validation email. Sorry, go to the email account and verify. So if this email does not exist, there's nothing. It will just send it to somewhere, and you will never be able to complete the rest. So the precondition, yes, this is good, but next time you ask your analyst first. Don't just assume. And another important precondition is this email address must be existing. So ideally, in most companies, it would not be a Yahoo.com account. You would have a specialized testing email testing account. Now, there's a popular one I normally use. It's called Mail Traps. Mail Traps. I think I've worked. If you're familiar with this, because I've worked with you on this. So this is more like. So I have an account here, so you see. So this is a mailing system. Let me see what's going on. So mostly testers use this mail traps to test stuff like this. And if you go to mail traps, for example, let me see my inbox. So you see, these are all test mails I used when I was testing because I performed this kind of test and stuff like that. Let's also see that you can also check in. So if I was using mail traps or my company was using mail traps, then this is the email I will probably put in the test. So let's see. Let me just be sure. Just give me a minute. Um, So send email methods from CRM, send services, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so this is probably what I would add here or put here if I was testing with mail traps. So you see, this would be what I would put in my testing stuff because mail traps, you have a lot of softwares like this, but these are mostly softwares that are built for testing, for testers to test stuff. So you probably put something like this, and when you put it there, then we log into mail traps, and you see the email will come in that stuff with the confirmation. So you see, like these are some of the stuffs I tested. You see, we have a button here. It's just like an email, but this particular software is built predominantly for testers to use. You understand? So a precondition is that this account already exists. Again, in the company you work for, you have a specific one that all testers have access to. For me, in my own production, when I'm working, I mostly use mail traps. You understand? Mail traps is for testers. You see, I've been using it for a while, and I deleted even a lot of them. And you use it for this kind of stuff. All right. Let's see. Post condition. What would the condition be? Let's see. User receives the validation email and must confirm to complete, and I'll probably just add user can log in with the newly created email address and password. So this is what this would look like. So what is the all right, I see Obi's raising up his hand.
Yeah, what's
Um
the difference between the post condition and the
well,
expected result?
so the postcode they're quite similar. So in most cases, I'll say the expected result is more of at the end of this test what should happen. And if you want to simplify it, you could just specify exactly what should happen. So in that case, I would probably just leave it at this part. User can log in with the new email address and password. While post condition will probably contain a lot more, like what you have here. Registration is successful. Validation email was sent. It will be like more. It's kind of like more. It has more um, yeah, more stuff in it. So that's how I probably would look at it. But they're quite similar in sometimes, depending on the test you're carrying out. So expected result, I would just probably limit to when I finish this, what do I expect? So I'll just say what I expect is I should be able to log in. That's what I expect. I expect to use this to be able to log in. Whereas if I say post condition, I expect that an account is created. It's just more, yeah, a lot more information. All right. So this is a very good takeaway. I want you guys to
Yeah,
just remember what I
yeah,
tried to make you guys understand. Be as explicit as possible. Remember, you want to be able to give your test to another tester, and it will do exactly the same thing. You don't want the tester to test with different emails, because sometimes when you test with different emails, you might have had a situation where you sent an email to Yahoo and you send the same email to Google, I mean to Gmail, and the one in Yahoo landed in the inbox and the one in Gmail entered the spam box. You get it? So you will start having different behaviors if you are allowing testers to just use an email address. Tester use this, tester use that. No. When you have a test case, try to write your test case in such a way that every tester will follow exactly the same thing. So explicit as possible. It's very nice to use your email, put the exact email, put the password. The same thing when you're testing for invalid password. Put the invalid password in there. Put it, write an invalid password so that the tester will test exactly what they see in your test case. All right, Chinoso, you have a question?
So yeah, if multiple testers are using one test case and one already used that email to register, how would the second one be able to use the same email
Okay,
to
that's a
register
very,
if the
very brilliant
email,
question. So in
if
most
one of the
cases, yeah,
requirements is that you
if you
cannot
have
use the same
a,
email multiple times?
what do you call it, a use case like this, at the end of, so normally one tester is the one that's going to carry out all of this test that has to do with registration. One tester, yeah. And in most cases, at the total end of the test, you also have a cleanup. You understand? So you have like yeah, a cleanup note where it's like, okay, when you're done, delete this account. Do you understand? So when the tester is done with all of this, maybe all this at the end here, you now have delete this account. You also have instructions how to go into the software and delete the account. So sorry. So for the Enquete website, for
So
example, if I go in here, the instructions will be along the lines of let me just go in with this. So you just put an instruction that the person should go to settings. I think we have something like that here. Oh, okay. We've not added that, I think. Yeah, but in most cases, I think we've not added the possibility for users to delete. Yeah. So, but in most cases, you will give instructions to clean up. Because if you do not clean up, you would, if you don't clean up, number one, you're going to have, you'll not be able to carry out this test again, which is what Chinozo is trying to explain. But secondly, if you allow everybody to use all kinds of gibberish email, now imagine if everybody was using their image, what will happen after 1 year? After 1 year, you have in your database a lot of useless emails that testers have filled in and they're not real accounts. And you don't want that because that's going to just make the whole database very dirty. And you have accounts that are not real. So testers will use a specific same account, and at the end of the test, they do a cleanup. So that's how it mostly they do. They do clean up, delete everything you've added, take everything out, and start. So that the next time you test again, you start afresh. Yeah. So I would also like give you guys some pointers. Another pointer. I'm not gonna go step to step. I want you guys to remember what I said here, so that we can you can use this same ideology and principles in every other test you write. Now, I will give some feedbacks generally. So I talked about edge case. So the edge case I was referring to is the part where I'm like I was waiting for you guys to ask, can someone actually register with multiple emails? So that could be a possible edge case where someone has registered before and they try to register. And what if they try to register? What should happen? So you can see here, for example, if I log out here and I try to register again with this email and I click register, so you see, I get this email already is in use. So you see, because you guys didn't ask this question, this was not tested. So this is a behavior. This is an edge case. This is something someone would do or could do if they have forgotten they've registered to this website before. So you also want to run a test on this. So when you're testing, you want to think, okay, this is the happy flow. This is what normally people you expect people to do. But some people could also forget that they've registered before and come and register again. You see, that's an edge case. And sometimes even one software can have multiple edge cases because people behave differently. Do you understand? So that's it. So you want to think as much as possible for what are ways people could behave. Let me see. So I see register with invalid. That is good. So this register with invalid, of course, you want to use the same principles we talk about here. Register with invalid password. So like I said, invalid password. Put the exact invalid password in here. Don't just say, don't just say enter 6 characters that are invalid. No, just the same way you see I put this here, put the invalid password there, and that would ensure that every tester would test the same way. All right. And if something is not working, we could always go back to the test case and say, okay, let's see the password that was used. But if everybody used a different password, it would be very difficult to trace potential problems, right? And also if you put an invalid password and there's a bug, you could copy that password and send to the developers and say, look at the exact password we used, and it did not work, or it did not behave the way we expected. So be very explicit. Then I see another test here. Register with uh yeah. So this is the invalid password part. This is a password length check. So this is very nice. So what I see is happening here is you're testing, let me see, user attempts to register with a password that is less. Okay, yeah. So you're testing if the password is not up to 6, what happens? Very good. So you're covering, like, this is you trying to cover all possible behavior because people do this. Even though you put it explicitly, test with 6 letters, no, I mean, log in with 6 characters. People want to log in with 4. And you want to test that as a tester to make sure that doesn't happen. So this is very good that you're testing this case. So this is very great coverage. Then this is also testing if there's a combination of this criteria, special characters, numbers, and capital. Very good. Very, very good. Then let's see. This is login with user successfully logs in after completing email validation. So this to me was quite similar to the first one. So I don't think this is necessary because this is exactly what the happy flow is testing. Except if I'm missing the point here. Let me see. User attempts to log in with an invalid email address. Have we tested this before? Yeah, I think we've tested this before. You're trying to register with an invalid. Oh, let me see. Have we tested that? Yeah, so this is also double. You don't want to test stuff double. I think this is the same thing. Let's see. User attempts to log in with a valid email but incorrect password. I think this is also being tested here and here. Let's also see. User attempts to log in with both email and password field empty. So this is also a good test. You want to try this out. It's also very good. So and this test is just simple. So it's just delete this, delete this. What happens if I click on register? What happens? It gives you some kind of error, right? So but you want to add that to your test because people do that. People will just go to your website and just click register without filling in. And that's what you want to test because sometimes when what if I click register and I was able to log in? I mean I was able to register. You as a tester would have caught that if you tested it. So you really want to think about all the crazy things people could do and you want to test it. If it is something that's a little bit outside the line, you ask the developers, sorry, the analysts, like, yo, what happens when this and this happens, right? Then there's also another feedback I want to give. on this part where I mentioned the requirement of uh, I said password must contain at least a number, a capital, and blah blah blah. If an invalid email is given, the user should get an error that the email is invalid. So you as a tester here, what you want to try to do is when you get something like this, when you get a requirement like this, you want to ask the analyst, what is the exact error that I should see? What is the exact message the user should get? Because now, because this my explanation is very vague. An invalid email is given. Sorry, if an invalid email is given, the user should get an error that the email is invalid. That's vague because it could be message. The error could be email is invalid. The email, it could also be sorry user, this email is. It could be different kind of things. So that means if it's different kind of things, different testers will validate different things. So you want to ask the analyst, what exact message do you expect to see? Let the analyst tell you, oh, the message should be email is invalid, because that will stop you from assuming. And also, if some, it will also mean that when you test this and you don't see is invalid, maybe you see email incorrect. If you see email incorrect and the requirement says you should see email is invalid, that's a bug. I don't know if you understand what I mean. Look at this now. If I did something like this, so I'm gonna try this, right? And I click register. Let me see. Let's try this. So if this one says please enter a valid email. If the requirement says, if the requirement actually says the user should see email is invalid, if you've asked the analyst and that's exactly what the analyst says, email is invalid, this is then a bug, because this is not saying email is invalid. This is saying please enter a valid email. So you're gonna send this back to the developer and say, developer, sorry, this is not what the requirement says. This is a bug, because what the requirement says is you should get email is invalid, but this is saying please enter a valid email. That is why testers are like, you're like eagle eyes. Anything that is out of place, you complain. Complaining is your job, and that's exactly what you're getting paid for. Don't be like, oh, it's the same thing. Invalid email, please enter a valid. Yeah, it's the same. No, it's not the same thing. As long as it's in your requirements, you send it back to the developers and you say, guys, there's a bug. I'm supposed to see email is invalid, but I'm seeing please enter email. And I'm very serious about this. Don't assume exactly what you see in your requirement is what you're going to send back. Even if there's a full stop, if there's a dot here, if there's a full stop here, and your requirement does not have a full stop, you send it back to the developers. If the requirement says there should be a punctuation here, and you look and you test it, you don't see the punctuation, you send it back to the developers. And that shows you are a good tester. That means you are looking critically. It has to follow the requirements. You understand? During your refinements, or if you see a message, what do you call it, if they wrote in the requirement document, you see a dot there and you're not sure, should I put a dot, should I check for the dot, should I check for the punctuation or not, you ask your analyst, I see that in the error message there's a punctuation, should we validate for that, should I test for that? The analyst says yes. That means if you're not seeing a full stop at the end, you send it back. Sorry guys, bug. So these things are very important. Do not ignore stuff. Do not even, if you see something misspelled, maybe someone instead of emailed, you have to put it back. It's a bug. That's a bug. Sorry, you misspelled email. Back. I'm not approving this. So that's how you show you are a good tester. Don't assume. Don't be like, it's the same thing. No, it's not the same thing. You must follow your requirements. Anything that is not clear, you ask the business analyst. Very, very important. During your refinement meetings is when you guys are preparing for a use case. So you guys talk about this, you get to ask questions. You ask those questions. And also remember, try to be explicit as possible. Any questions? So I'm not going to be able to take all of them one by one, but I hope that using this particular one as a sample, you guys understand the full picture of what you are supposed to do in your next lab sessions. Ifeanyi, you have a question? Okay, so let
Yeah,
me ask you
I
a
do have a
question.
question.
Let me try to
So in a Scrum team,
explain your
who
question
writes the test
for the
cases?
rest. So Ifeanyi is asking in a Scrum team. So let me get that. I think I sent you guys a diagram. Yeah, that's this guys. So later on in this training, I'm going to introduce you guys to what we call the Agile framework, the Agile way of working. And Scrum is kind of like a method or a way that teams are set up, and also how teams get to pick up development and go through the whole development life cycle, right? So if you say you're in a Scrum team, a Scrum team comprises of the people you see in this picture. So you see in this box, you have a product owner. So like if you look at formally, I don't know if you guys are, or even in some companies that you guys might work in, you might see you have what you call what they call those kind of people. They call them like is it managers? Like you have like somebody that is your boss in the team, like tells you, don't do this, do that, pick do this assignment, do that assignment. That's not how Scrum teams work. Do you understand? A Scrum team have product owners, we have Scrum masters, and you have the team. And we're gonna talk more and more about this in a later training. But what Ifeanyi is asking is who, if you're in a Scrum team, which is what you see here, so you see the product owner. Remember, I told you the product owner gets the requirements, the feature requirements from the business. The product owner now discusses that requirement with the business analyst. The business analyst has mostly full knowledge of the whole ecosystem of the software. They know a lot about the software and says, okay, look at this feature that the business wants us to add. How can we add it? Then the business analyst is the one that now says, okay, the password must be this character long after actually trying to figure out what the business really wants. So they define those kind of stuff, and then that is now presented to the team as this is what needs to be built. Now, if I your question is who writes what again? Who writes this? What was your question again? So the test cases is written by you guys, the testers.
Like who
So you
writes the
get
test cases? Like the cases.
um
Like
so
only one
in
tester
most
will write the
cases,
test
yeah,
cases,
in most cases,
then every tester will follow,
um
or
if you join a company
everybody will
now,
write their
most
own.
of the time those test cases are already being written. But if a new feature is added, like now this is an example of a new feature, one of the testers could write it, but you guys as testers have to discuss it. So you see in this example we have only one tester, one QA tester. Then that means it's just this QA tester is going to write it. But sometimes you might have multiple testers. So what you do is you discuss it with each other and be like, okay, I'm going to write the test cases, or I'm going to add the test case to the already existing one, because you could already have a login test, but maybe new features get added. Maybe just take for example, we already had this. Maybe we had this login or this. Sorry, we already had this registration page, but a new feature is we're going to add another input where we'll collect the first name, last name, and company name. So that's a new thing on top of what you guys already have. So you guys already had a test case for registration page, but now there's a new feature we're gonna add. We're gonna add first name, last name, and company name. So that means you guys will go and get your test case and adjust it and add those new things so that you'll be able to test it based on the requirement. So it is the testers that do that. You can do that together as a group. You guys can all sit together if you are two or three testers and be like, okay, let's brainstorm. Let's see what other test cases can we think. Or it could be that within your test group, you'll be like, okay, this person is going to write it this time. The next one, this person is going to write it. The next one, this one is going to write it. But the point is, all of you should be capable of doing it independently. Now, what does independently mean? It doesn't mean that you cannot make mistakes. It means that if you write it, you should be able to write it just like we wrote it. But you can also, when you finish writing, you just send it to your fellow testers and ask, please, can you review what I wrote? Did I forget something? Do you understand? So it's still a teamwork. But the point is, all of you as testers need to know how to write a test case. And that's already what you guys are doing right now. You guys are already writing test cases. But always good to review it. You review it with your other testers and say, okay, guys, look at what I wrote. Is there anything? Am I forgetting anything? Blah, 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 blah. Does that answer your question? All right. But in all, great work, guys. Great work. And I hope what I just explained
Yeah, it
opens your
makes more
mind
sense
more
now.
and to understand exactly how important you guys are. You guys are like the security guard of the software. If a tester does not approve a software, it does not go to production. So you guys could literally developers could literally build, and if a tester sees a bug or see and like now we send it back. And technically, the whole company is depending on you guys being able to see those little things. Now, it doesn't mean that you guys cannot make mistakes. Yeah, you guys can make mistakes, but you want to try as much as possible to be eagle eye. You understand? To be eagle eye. And you see, I mentioned analyst, business analyst a lot. This business analyst is your best friend as a tester because the business analyst knows exactly everything that needs to happen in the software. And if you have questions, you want to ask the business analyst. You want to say, okay, what about this? What about should we accept multiple emails? Okay, what about this? Should I check for this? He's your friend. So business analyst is your closest friend. Now, of course, the developers, but you get most of your information from the business analyst. Are there any other thing? Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. All right. Any other question? No. All right. So let's see if we can use the rest of the time to continue from where we stopped. All right. But let's take a break. Can we take a 5 minutes break? I'll see you guys at 10:40. All right. 5 minutes break. See you guys at 10:40. So, welcome to the session, the continuation of session two, and yeah, in this session we'll be diving into software development lifecycle, which is popularly known as SDLC. And this is a framework that guides teams through each stage of creating a software. Both, I mean, starting from the planning, the building, the testing, and the deployment. Now, SDLC provides structure and also provides a predictable approach that ensures that results are more of a high quality, right? Much like a roadmap for any project. Now, following the SDLC framework, it keeps everyone, both the developers, the testers, the project manager, it keeps everyone aligned and aware of what needs to happen in each stage. Now, let's go to the next slide. We'll talk about the key phases of the SDLC. Remember, SDLC, software development lifecycle. So it kind of makes me think about if I think about if I look at this diagram, it looks like a water cycle, right? If you guys remember, I think it was in biology or something like that, where you have the water cycle. So it starts from raindrop, it goes to it falls down, it goes to the sea, it goes back up. It just cycle like that. And you have that also with software development, right? So, and we're going to look at the phases, the important phases of SDLC. Now, each SDLC phase has specific goals and deliverables. And as a tester, understanding this will help you know when and how to contribute effectively in a team. Now, let's see, the first phase is the requirement analysis, so which is somewhere, let me see, uh, probably mixed up with this too, planning analysis. But anyway, let's go through that. So, requirement analysis. So, now the business, you have a product, right? when you have a product, let's give an example of a product. Let me see. A lot of we have a lot of ladies here. So I see. Yeah. So ladies are into hair, and you guys have like you guys wear a lot of wigs. Wig is a lady thing. And take for example, you decided to design a software where you sell your wigs because you guys have very good ideas about wigs, right? Now, remember the first thing that happens is you start thinking about it like, okay, what features should my software be able to do? Remember, my product is I want to be able to place my wigs on this on my software, and people should be able to buy it. So you start thinking about, you know, what features and stuff like that. Now, if this was to be, if you were to use uh, SDLC, the first thing you do then is you analyze the requirements of this software. You know what it's supposed to do. You want to use it to showcase and sell wigs, but you also have to analyze what the requirements are. So in this phase, the team gathers and analyzes the software business needs. What should be done? This is where everything starts. Understanding what the customer wants, understanding what the product should be able to do. And for the tester, your key deliverable is when you guys have done this requirement analysis, when you've done this meeting, you need to know what the specifications are, what the requirements specifications are. User stories. User stories is more like what needs to be built. What are different functions that need to be built? So you need a login, you need a registration page, you need this, you need that. So you need those user stories need to be well defined. And use case diagrams also, depending on what software development methodology you're using. You understand? So that's what needs to come out of this requirement analysis, because this requirement analysis, when you do that, or when that is done within a software team, this deliverables that come out, requirement specification, user stories, use case diagram, that is what is going to be used to communicate with the testers and with the developers. In most cases, the key person that plays a very vital role in this requirement analysis is, let me get that my stuff up again, is the business analyst. So the business analyst is pretty much the person that is actually the main guy in the requirement analysis phase, because this business analyst gets the required information mostly from the business or the product owner and tries to break it down. Or even though every other member of the team is somewhat involved, we're also going to see how QA testers are involved, but the main person that is gathering these requirements is the business analyst. Now we go to the next phase. The next phase is the design phase. Here, the team creates a blueprint based on the requirements, covering aspects like architecture, user interface, databases, and system integration. Now, the key deliverable here is a high level design, a low level design, a UI mockup, or database schema. You understand? So this phase also most time is done in combination with the business analysts, the developers, most of the time, based on my experience. So here we see like a diagram of, okay, this is how it needs to. Maybe I'll also show you guys a visual representation of what I mean, so it doesn't stay too vague. So I'll say software feature flow diagram. So sometimes diagrams like this might come out of it. I think I saw one. Yeah, so you might get a diagram like this. Maybe not like this, but let's see. Hide the text. So this is I don't know. This is just random stuff I just picked up from the internet. But this is probably a flow of how a software is supposed to behave. Maybe yeah, this is a maze image. It should do certain things if a certain behavior happens, or go left or go right. This is something typically developers will probably understand, or domain experts, and in this case our domain experts is our business analyst. So diagrams like this might come out from this design phase, and these diagrams get sent to the developers. Another type of diagram that could come out is what you call a website. If it's a web development, so you have website wireframe. So let's see an example of that. Yeah, so this is pretty much how a wireframe looks like. Uh, so you see, so this is a wireframe. This is like a blueprint of a web page. You understand? So in this design phase, yeah, you get a blueprint like, okay, the logo should be here. It should have three buttons here. The search button should be here. There should be an image here. Blah blah blah. The next page has this format and all this kind of stuff. You get it? So that's probably what comes out from of this design phase. And in most cases, the people involved or highly involved here is indeed the business analysts and sometimes the developers. And even if you have a UX designer in your team, the UX designer might also be very involved in this phase, even though technically the tester is also somewhat involved. You understand? And we're going to see how later how what kind of things the software gets involved in this phase. Now the next phase is code implementation phase. This is where the developers actually write the actual code using all the requirements and design documentation. They also perform unit tests and ensure their code works as expected. Can you guys still hear me? Yeah. Okay. Can you guys hear me? Okay. All right. Chino, so you're raising up your hand, right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, that's correct.
I wanted to add that
Yeah,
in the design
depending on
phase, the
the kind of
product
software you
designer
guys are
or
building,
the
right?
US
There are some
designer
softwares
can
that
also
also
be
are not
heavily involved.
visual. There are some softwares that just that work only on the command line or or yeah or API. Which we're gonna see. We're gonna see. There are different types of softwares, but of course, if it's a software where there's a visual interaction, yeah, and the team has money or the company has money to hire UX designer, yeah, UX designer is very involved in the design phase. All right, great. Let's continue. So, on the code implementation phase, developers are the guys, and what they actually deliver is source code, unit test results, and code review reports. So yeah, we're gonna get into this later. What are unit tests? What are code reviews? But what if do you think which of you have heard of the word unit test? Please raise up your hand if you've heard the word unit test. So if I not the word is actually term unit test. Okay, fine. Raise up your hand if you think testers should be writing unit tests. Okay, so if I says testers should write unit tests. All right, great. So I'm going to start with the first question. What is a unit test? So I'll see if Google can help me explain this better. So I'm just going to get um, say give a example of a code of a math function that can be unit tested. Let's see if Google can help us with something interesting. Okay, so let's look at the Python function. Okay, so I'm just going to try to keep it simple. So what is a unit test? So this program you're seeing here, this programming language is actually called Python. And what you see here is a function. It's called a function. What does this function do? Uh, for those of you who have done programming with me, you remember in Java we had stuff like what we call methods. Methods are the same as functions. It's just people use the words interchangeably. So you see in this function takes in a value. It takes in a parameter. So if you call this function called isPrime, if you give it a number, it will tell you if this number is a prime number or not a prime number. If it's a prime number, it's going to give you a true response. If it's not a prime number, it's going to give you a false response. So that's all this function does. This function just checks if any number you give it, if it's a prime number or not. Now, in software, in every program, you have a lot of these kind of functions that are doing different things. Now, unit tests is typically written by developers, not testers. Again, unit tests are written by unit developers. And what does unit tests do? With unit tests, the developer writes tests to make sure that the functions that they have designed is doing exactly what they expect it to do. That means when myself as a developer, if I wrote this prime function, I would write another code called unit test. And what that code would do is the code would test this function. It will give it different numbers to see if it will correctly give me a true or false, if determining if the numbers are prime or not. And if it gives me false where it's supposed to be true, then my unit test will fail. I'll be like, okay, I was expecting to get a false, but I got it true, so there's something wrong with your function. So myself as a tester, I will go back and try to look at my logic and fix it. So unit tests are actually used to test code blocks. But you as a tester, you're not really involved with codes. You're mostly involved with the usability part, mostly the exterior part. And unit test is more of the functions and units in the code to be tested, and developers write unit tests. Okay? So except you guys become developers, then you also start unit testing. So that's just for me to be clear on this part. And most times when developers write unit tests, they can also extract code review reports to see how many tests passed and how many tests failed. Maybe later I'm going to show you guys unit tests on my own software, on the softwares I've built, and you guys will see how it looks like. Now, the next phase is the testing phase. That's where you guys come in for the most part. And this phase focuses on validating the software against requirements. Remember, we talked about that requirements. I keep saying it over and over again. So you check if all the requirements are followed. You want to cover all the requirements. You understand? You want to test everything. You want to test empty strings. You want to test empty password. You want to test everything to make sure everything is fully covered. Now, testers execute various tests to identify and report defects, ensuring that the software performs as expected. Now, the key deliverables is when you're done testing, you deliver a test plan, your test cases. Oh, sorry. In this phase, what comes out of it is a test plan. So test plan is more of, okay, it's actually this document, the document, but more with like, oh, this is what you want to test. This is what you're going to focus on. So yeah, I think I'll show you guys an example of that. So just more of a plan, like, okay, this is how you're going to test it. And then the test cases is what you guys have done, which are the different test cases. And then defect report. If there's any defect, you're going to create a report for that and be like, okay, this didn't work, this didn't work, and test execution report. So more like if everything works out well, then you'll be like, okay, I tested all of this, I tested this and this and this and this, and it all worked. So let's also see if we can get an example of what a test um, execution report looks like. So mostly they call it test reports, but let's just see example of software test report. So you see, the reason why I'm using Google for this is I want you guys to know, to get very familiar with the fact that anything you want to do, anything you want to figure out, you just use Google. So I know I didn't even rehearse this. I'm just going on there because I expect these things to be online. So you see, we can see an example of a test report. So this is an example of a test report. They don't they Every test report looks like different, but the information is quite similar. So you see, this is a test report that probably a tester carried out, and you see what type of test was it? It was a product test log or whatever. Uh, how many of the tests passed? How many of them failed? How many of them could you not test because something was the precondition was not met? how many are in progress, how many is pending, and stuff. But also a lot of times in most bigger companies, this test report gets generated for you automatically if you are operating if the test is being run by automated tests. You understand? But if it's not done by automated testing, you probably produce something like this. Like, okay, I performed 120 tests. Out of that 120 tests, three failed and stuff like that. So let's see another test report, what it could look like. They all look different depending on which company you're working for. So we can see this. Let's see if this is also a nice one. Because every company have their own style. So So you see, this is also some kind of a test report. So you see, you tested all of this because this company, I think this looks like the software called Jira. Um, and you see, you just mentioned that this test failed, and then you send this as your report. Like, okay, I've tested a certain these features, and two failed. You understand? And with this report, um, the uh, the product owner is going to determine if we should we should go on to production or not. But most of the time, if things are failing, it doesn't go anywhere. You have to go back to the developers. So you can always Google this kind of stuff and you see how they look. The basic idea is the test report contains information of the tests you've done. What passed, how many failed, and just stuff like what we just saw. So Google these terms; they're all over the internet. That will give you more of idea because I'm more of a visual person, so that's why I'm like, okay, I'm gonna show you guys how it might look like. But I think having it a mental picture of it also gives you more of perspective of what we're talking about. So let's look at this one as well. This one is also quite interesting. So let's see, log template. Do we have a report here? Yeah. So this is also interesting. Oh, let me see. Nope. I'm gonna zoom in. Query. So you see this. Oh my God, that's my bad. So you see, yeah, this one. So you see these are various tests, and you see this failed, this passed, this failed, this passed, this failed, this passed. So you typically have a sheet like this, and you send it back to the team or to whoever is going to deploy to production. I'm like, okay, I performed the test, but this is my test report. A couple of things failed, a couple of things passed, or everything passed, and then you go to the next phase. So this is also what happens in the development lifecycle. The tester does its thing. Then the next phase is the deployment phase. So assuming everything passes, it goes to the deployment phase. Now, in the deployment phase, the software is released into production, making it available to users. Now, the team carefully plans this stage to ensure a smooth transition. Now, what are the key deliverables in this stage? So the person responsible for deployment will provide a development plan, the deployed software, and yeah, and post deployment results. So if it's been deployed to production, yeah, are there any validation results? Are there things that came out of it? So mostly, in most cases, testers are not really doing anything specific here because after the test of test, they send it to the development phase, and then the person responsible for the development phase makes sure it gets into production. But it doesn't end there. Even when it gets to production, you go to the next phase, which is the maintenance phase. Now, even after deployment, the software still needs ongoing support, which means that people will be using it and be sending errors and be saying, okay, I clicked on this didn't work, or blah, 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 or some things that maybe the testers didn't really overlook. Now, the team monitors and addresses whatever bugs are coming in from production. There might also be performance issues. Maybe certain page takes too long to load. They get all of this feedback mostly from the users that are actually using it. And then they gather those reports. Then the key deliverables or what comes out of this report is mostly um, a bug fix report. So yeah, it goes back to the developers. The developers fix the bugs and they give a report of what is being fixed. Performance enhancements reports and probably updated software versions. So those are the things that come out of this stage, and then you start all over again. So let's look at this cycle again and see if we can follow. So of course we have the planning phase. Yeah, the planning phase is just like, okay, for me, I'm a business. I'm gonna take we're the heart of a business. I'm I want to build a software that I sell weeks. I'm like, okay, I'm thinking about it. Okay, the planning is more like, okay, what are the things I need a website. I need to be able to set it on a website. I need to pay for hosting. I need to pay for that. Then it comes to the analysis phase, which is the phase we talked about, which is okay. Now, what should this software be able to do? What are the things? What are the features? What should come out of it? And the business analyst is very active here. And then it goes to design. We've thought about all the features. Then the design is okay. How it's going to look like? What's the high level demands, low level demands? Oh, how was it put? What's it called? It's high level design and low level design. Sorry. So you think about all of that, both for the developers, the UX designer comes on board, and then we start implementing. This is where the developers actually start developing, and then the testers write test cases and tests, and it goes to yeah, there's actually some stuff missing in between, which is deployments, after deployment, then maintenance. Yeah, so I think they combine it here. It's look testing and integration. So it says testing is actually testing and deployment. So this is how software flow has been working for a long time. So if you look at your Instagram app, this is what has been going on behind the scene. For every new feature that you say, oh yes, oh they just added something new. This is exactly what has been going on. Someone thought about it, planned it, analyzed it, called the team together. They started designing it and say, okay, this is how it's gonna look, blah blah blah. And then they implemented it, went to the developers, and the developers did their thing and sent it to the testers. The testers tested it and they integrated it or sent it to production. And after production, they started maintaining it because sometimes bugs happen or people use it and it crashes. They get those stuff and they fix it and it happens all over again. That's just how all of these things have been going. And you guys are softwares, this is where you find yourself. But softwares are actually active in every role. But this is the part where they are really going to do their thing in the testing phase. Now, let's go to the next page, which I want to show you guys common SDLC models that have been existing and the ones that are really very popular. I don't know if you guys have heard about the waterfall method. Who here knows about the waterfall method that is used by a lot of companies in the past for developing software or even for product design or product development? Who knows about this? Raise up your hand if you've heard about waterfall. Okay, if I, who else has heard about the waterfall design? Great. So I'm going to be the first to tell you guys about waterfall design. So who else? Obina's heard about it. Okay. So waterfall. This is a very, very interesting. This is waterfall method is not only used in software design. A lot of companies in the past, especially big companies, use waterfall design methodology. And this is how it works. I'm going to show you using this diagram. And why I'm gonna tell you why we ran away from it. Like everybody, like most people are running away from waterfall method. Now this is how it starts. If for example I'm gonna use bread, the product we want to design is bread. We want to bake bread, and we're coming with a totally new flavor of bread. You understand? To show you that most of these design methodologies can be used in anything, but bread. So we're bread manufacturers, and the business, came with an idea that I want to design a new kind of bread. Now we're going to go through development life cycle for that development before we get into the actual use clients, right? The actual consumers, right? So the first thing is I'm going to call my team together and be like, okay, guys, um, these are the requirements that this bread should have. It should have this kind of taste. It should have raisins in it. And mind you, each of these blocks you see here are different departments. They're not the same. Just think about it as a skyscraper, and each floor is a different department. So that means you have like one, two, three, four, five, six departments, and these departments don't talk to each other directly. They just everybody's doing their thing. They're specialized in what they do. So I, as the company owner, I went to the requirement department. I said, guys, I'm launching a new bread. It has to have raisins in it. It has to have a lot of sugar. It has to do this. It has to do that. It has to be able to fly. Now the requirement team, they now detail, they write what you call a detailed report. They're like, yeah, you should have this, you should have this, you should do this, you should do that. All the requirements they put inside of it. Now they send it to the analysis team. which is a different department. So mind you, it might take them up to 1 month to finish that this requirement. You understand? And while they are doing that, the rest of the team is not. They're not doing anything. The rest of the department, they're not doing anything. They're just waiting for requirements to come down to them. So at this point, analyst is not doing anything because requirements is busy. Requirement department is busy. Now they talk about the bread. They create this big document that has everything from A to Z about that bread, and they send it to the analyst team. Analyst team, okay, we've gotten the requirement. Okay, we need a burner. We need to buy a new furnace. We need to buy 2,000 bags of sugar because we've read the requirements, and this is what we need to be able to meet the requirements. They bring all of those things. This whole stuff might take another 2 months. And mind you, why it's taking 2 months, design team is still waiting. Design team hasn't got anything from analyst team because yeah, we don't have anything yet. We are waiting. So it takes them 2 months because they want to get everything at the same time to make sure all the requirements are met. Then they send it to the design team. Now the design team say, now we see it. So we start designing the bread. We buy this. Okay, now we're designing. Okay, we've designed it. This is how the bread should look. It should have a flour on it. It should blah blah blah. That one takes them maybe another 3 weeks. While all this thing is happening, coding, soft engineers have not touched anything. They are still waiting. How much months have passed? I think we're already 4 months now. They've not done anything because they are waiting for guys to finish everything on the top. Now the design team is done. Maybe 4 months have gone now. Coding now comes to coding. Coding starts design. Coding will design everything from top to bottom to get the bread exactly how the owner wants it. Now they're coding. They're done with coding. Coding takes them like 4 months. We're now 8 months down. Product has not reached user. That's consumer has not touched the product. We are 8 months in. Then you send it to the testers, which is you guys. And the testers now like looking at it like, this thing is nice, but I realized that the weight of the bread does not meet international standards or something, which is something maybe the government has given you guys that it must meet. Like, it's a nice bread, but as a tester, I'm not going to let this pass because based on what we as a company has been using and what comes from international standards on the government, it's a fictional stuff, eh? We have to have this bread needs to weigh X amount. You're like, okay. Then the tester now pick up the requirement document that came from here and look at the requirement document. And the requirement document does not say anything about it. Does not say, in fact, totally forgot about the government requirements and all that stuff. Guess what happens? The tester will now send this all the way back to the requirements department, and the requirement department is going to start all over again. Do you understand? That means they are still waiting. It doesn't go into production. They found an error. Now they are going back and they have to do all that stuff again. They have to go, they have to read it, they have to act it. Takes another 2 weeks. They start sending it to analysts. Analysts have to do this. That's how it's going to happen. And you see, it's called a waterfall because every level depends on the level on top of it. Every level depends on the level on top of it. And it's not efficient. And you see, before it actually gets to the final consumer, oh my God, it's 2 years. There's some companies, it's already 5 years. The real thing they are building has not reached any, the consumers have not even gotten it. Because this is a waterfall method, they have to fix all of these things. And they want to build everything complete before it meets the end user. So this is also a popular model that was also used in software development. But this model cannot survive in this day and age because of the speed that apps and stuff are being built. If you do this, you'll be late for the market. Do you understand? So this methodology doesn't work in this time. A lot of companies have left it. It used to be very popular back in the days, especially for big companies. Companies like Microsoft even use this model for software development. That's why you see, like back in the days, it would take years. If they had like Windows 95 before Windows 98 came out, it took a long time because they have to go through all of this stage. And if there's a mistake, they have to go all the way back. You understand? So you also have this V model, you have spiral model, but the software development model that is reigning this day is called agile. It's also a methodology. Now let's look at how that looks like. Now, how agile looks like is instead of building, so we're going to take the whole bread thing, right? As an example. I come and I say, I want bread. I want to build a bread. Okay. Oh, sorry, I want a new brand of bread. Okay. We think about it, plan it, but instead of planning the whole bread, we're gonna pick the most simplistic feature that that bread should have and try to get it to the end user as quickly as possible. And then we keep adding more and more features as we go. Now, check this out. We want to design a bread. Okay, fine. What is the thing we want in the bread? Or we want raisins and we want it um to be, I don't know, fat or something, or weigh X. It goes to the design phase immediately after that simple plan has been made. We didn't think about everything. We don't have to think about all the dynamics. No, we just want the most simple functioning bread that a user can eat. We know we have the vision to make it the ultimate bread, but for now, this is how much we know, and we put that in design. Design thinks about it, it goes to the developers, the testers test it, and it gets deployed. Or, and because of the scope is very small, not that we're designing the whole bread, we already said we're not designing the whole ninja bread. No, we want it to be white. We just want it to have raisins. That's the first requirement. It gets there and already is in the tester. The tester is already in the consumers because the phase is very small. And even if the tester is testing, the tester is only going to test: does it have raisin? Is it white? Assuming that's the requirement. If those two things pass, go send it to the user. The user starts eating it. Immediately we start again. What is the next feature that needs to be added to this bread? Oh yeah, the bread needs to have wings. It needs to have wings. Then you go again. You design the wings. You send it to developers. Developers add wings to the bread. The testers go. They test it. It's deployed. And in this case, now the tester only just have to test. Does it have wings? That's all he has to test. Does it have wings? It has wings. Pass. Goes to the developer. It goes to the production. Then we go again. What else? What else needs to be added to this bread? This bread needs to have like two wheels on the side. All right, wheels on the side. The designers go put the wheels on the design a new wheel. This is how the wheel should look like next to the bread. Okay, it goes to the developer. The developers add the wheels. The tester now only has to do what? Test the wheels. Are the wheels spinning? Does it do what it's supposed to do? Blah blah blah. It does in production. So you see that already on the first sprint, people are already enjoying this bread, and the bread just keeps getting better. And this ensures that products are being released as quickly as possible to the end users. And one of the advantage of this is if you release this bread early, you would also get early feedback. So what if you release this bread now early and people are like, "Oh, this your flying bread. It's not our thing. We're not buying. It's too expensive. Blah blah." That is already going to give you enough information to know what to do on the next iteration, or to even say this product is not going to work. Let's stop. So you see that even it's very cost effective to use the agile methodology because you might go and spend 50 million, 20 million on designing the whole software using waterfall. At the end, you bring it to the consumer. The consumer is like, yo, we don't like it. We don't like it. It's not that thing. You just wasted 20 million. But if you use the agile methodology, you would get those early feedbacks like, yo, I designed this thing. People be like, we like the way it tastes, but this whole wings you are putting on it, it's kind of weird for us. I don't know. It looks like an angel. We don't like it. Guess what? You're gonna remove the wings because shots. You have these short sprints that you're doing, and it's not taking you months. Typically, a sprint takes 2 weeks for most companies. You understand? Sometimes 3 weeks. So in 3 weeks cycle already, product is getting to the designers, and the designers are giving. I mean, the consumers and the consumers are giving you feedback. So that is what is making this agile methodology very very popular because companies use this methodology to get the different teams together and release products very very quickly. And instead of the different departments to be in different teams in an agile methodology, each of these teams, I mean, each of these, um, how would I call them? Each of these professionals are actually usually in the same space. So you have a tester, a developer, a designer will probably be in the same team, just like we see here. See this? You're all in the same team. Whereas in waterfall method, the business analyst is in a different building. You don't even see the analyst. You have to send him an email. You have to go. It's a different department. But in a Scrum, in an Agile, a Scrum is actually a type of Agile. In an Agile team, this all the key people you need to get this sprint thing to work are in the same team. You have your business analyst is there, your architect is there, your developer is there, your QA tester is there, and also you have access to your Scrum Master. We're going to talk about the Scrum Master later, and product owner. So you see, everything is in the same block. So typically, as a tester, if you like this thing I'm saying, you guys should have asked me a question. Typically, in a team, as a tester, if you wanted to ask the analyst a question, you just most of the time you just stand up and just go to his table because he's in your team. If you guys are on the office, or if you guys are working from home, you just shoot him a text and stuff because he knows you guys have talked about this. You guys are working in the same team, and he knows exactly what needs to be built and stuff like that. So that means products gets rolled out way quicker. So that's what makes this agile Scrum methodology very, very famous. So this is just a real quick high level of the difference between these two. You hear about this a lot, waterfall, but nobody's messing with waterfall these days. Most companies are transitioning into agile, into Scrum. Now, what is agile? Like I said, agile is a methodology, but you also hear me saying Scrum a lot. So let's look at that. So you see, let me see if we can get a visual representation. Agile methodology. So because I'm quite visual, I'll just say types of agile. So let's see if we can get a diagram that can give us kind of a yeah. So you see, so this is agile methodology, and agile has different types of implementation. So the idea is the same, but different companies tend to implement it in a different way. And some of the popular implementation that have been designed are Scrum. So it's still using the same fundamental, but they just change certain rules. So you have Scrum, you have Crystal, you have Kanban. Kanban and Scrum is one I hear a lot. You have extreme programming, or another way you see extreme programming is called the XP, XP practices. So if you see XP, it means extreme programming. You see that? So let's go back to the visual stuff. Where is it? And we have all this other stuff. But the most popular these days is either you're seeing Scrum or you're seeing Kanban or you're seeing M-Stream programming. So it's just a methodology that teams used to build to carry out their feature development. And as you can see here, this is a Scrum team. And a Scrum team, remember, Scrum is a type of agile methodology. A Scrum team comprises of a product owner, a Scrum master, a QA, dev, business analyst, architect. So if you go and work anywhere and you say, "Oh, I want to be part of a Scrum team," or my team is a Scrum team, this is what you expect to be in there. Yeah, I see Obi's raising up his hand. Okay, so let's also see if we can find job openings, job opportunity
No,
outlets
no,
where
I'm not.
tester jobs Scrum team. Let's see if we can see how most companies might describe that. Let's see software testers. Let's see. Do we have a software testing job here? Let me see. No. Let's go to another one. Fact you. Oh. Let me look for a tester. Bottom pass is fact you by all. On the roll. So this is a job for your local guys, Scrum Master, Coach, Cup Gemini. Okay, this is the Scrum Master. I just want to show you guys that in most companies where you want to work as tester, you might have see this. This is let's open this up. So this is a tester job, and you see this. Let me make it bigger. So this is a job as a tester. They're paying $30 an hour, and they're saying effectively work in fast-paced environment utilizing agile methodology. You see it? So you see this company. You see here again. It says qualification, exposure to QA processes and deliverables in an agile Scrum environment. You see that? And that's exactly what we're trying to say. So if you see a job opening like that, what they're basically saying is their team looks like this. They have a product owner, they have a scrum master, they have a dev, they have a business analyst, an architect, and you as the QA. And already, you see, they are also saying exposure to QA processes, which is what we've discussed. We've seen the different processes of a QA and deliverables in a Scrum Agile environment. So that means that, as I'm telling you, if you're writing business case, if you're going through requirements, you already know if you're in a Scrum team who to go to when you're trying to get clarifications on requirements. Who do you go to? Go to your business analyst. Now, of course, technically go to your dev, of course, if there's a bug, but in the early stage when you're gathering requirements, you know that in a Scrum team you have a business analyst. And if you work anywhere and they say, oh, we are actually working as a scrum, you ask, where's your business analyst? And they say, oh, we don't have a business analyst. Then you know that, oh, you guys are not really practicing scrum here. You guys are maybe trying to become a scrum team, but not really a scrum team. But even at that, you also want to ask the company who is the person I need to communicate with that has all the business knowledge that I need to be able to verify my requirements. They must give you somebody like that. Sometimes the product owner will be the same person. It will be product owner, if the company is very small and they don't have a lot of money. You get it. So I'm just showing you guys this so that you would, when you see it in a job opening, you know what they're talking about. You understand? So it's very, very popular these days to have this kind of stuff in there. So you see, this is also another one with trust. Okay, this is Scrum Master. This is a remote tester. Remote tester. You also see in the job requirements. You see, let's find Scrum. See that? Experience operating in agile or Scrum environment, and that's what I'm explaining to you guys now. That means you know who's in your team. You know the kind of qualifications you expect in your team. You know you have to talk to your business analyst if things are not clear, if requirements are not clear. You know you should have a product owner. You know you should have a scrum master. And as time goes on, we're gonna play this out in real time. Like I told you guys are gonna work for me, and I'm gonna try to make all of this real, so you guys will play it out and be like, okay, where do I get these things? Where do I get this information from? And how does a software development session go? Yeah. All right. So let's just finish up the last two slides. Okay, we have another. So one more slide. So the next slide is about the roles of a tester in each of this SDLC phase. What is your role? Remember, I mentioned in this diagram that yeah, the in this testing phase, that's where the testers are really, really important. But also, testers are involved in all the other roles in some way, shape, or form. And we're gonna figure out what those roles are. Let me see. Just give me a minute. All right. So, like we just mentioned, different projects use different models to organize the SDLC phases, such as waterfall. We looked at the V model, spiral, agile, but yeah, the most popular or the ones that people talk about the most is either waterfall or agile. And agile is particularly popular today, and we'll also cover it in detail later on in this course. Now, what are the testers' roles in each of these SDLC phase? As a tester, it's very important to know your role in each of this phase, and it will help you contribute effectively. So we're going to start off from the requirement phase. What is the role of the tester in the requirement phase? Now, the tester reviews requirements to ensure that they are testable and help create user stories. So Again, user stories. I've been using that word user story. So let me show you guys what a typical user story looks like. So I'm gonna show you guys. I'm gonna Google it. Google is your friend. So I'll just say example of registration. Let me see, registration page user story. So let's see. What is how does a user story look like? So this is a typical user story. It's more of a description of a requirement that needs to be built. So an example, let's say example of login. Look at the registration. It starts like this. As a user, this is how a typical user story looks like. As a user, I want to log in via my social media account so that I can quickly access the platform without creating a new account. Now, this is one uh, for for a social media account without registration, but they want to make that possible. So you see the way it's being formed. It always starts with as a, then it also has. Let me also Google it for you. So I'll say user story template. You see that it actually has that same template we're talking about. So you see, let's see, templates. You see that? This is a template. See, user story template, an example. It starts with as a, then you put the person you're actually building it for. I want to, and then it ends with so that. So you see that's what you have here in that our example. You say it says as a user, I want to log in. So you mention what you want to do, what the feature should do, so that I can quickly access the platform. Now with this user story, then the developers start figuring out, okay, we now start talking, having that conversation with the business analyst. Okay, so that means we need the requirement is I want to log in via social media. So that means we need a social media button. Okay, what should it be able to do? Blah 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 blah. You understand? So this is more of a Scrum way of defining features. We're gonna look into this very deep, more deeply later. But you as a tester, you're gonna help to write these user stories. Don't worry about it now. It's just new. Remember, this is the first time you're hearing these words and stuff. But basically, these are just basically a way of describing what needs to be built by the developers. So you can see another one here. It says, as a new user, it starts with the same assay. I want to provide my basic information using registration. So that means I need a registration form, or I need a form that I can fill in my basic information, such as name and date of birth, so that I can personalize my profile. So this is just basically saying I want to build a registration form that will take in name name and date of birth, and yeah, that way I'll be able to log in and have my be use an account that is meant for me. Again, don't worry about this. We're going to learn how to write this. We're going to learn all of this later. But this is a way in a Scrum team how to define what needs to be built. So you write user stories, and these user stories get sent to the developers. The developers use this user story to create features, and then those features are tested by the testers. So even in this user story that you see here, um, then you as tester will now also write your test case based on the user story. So don't get wrapped up into it too much for now, or think, oh my God, how can I write something like this? Don't get wrapped up into that right now. We're gonna get into that later, but I just wanted to show you guys what a user story looks like, so you have a mental picture. So yeah, in the requirement phase, a tester helps out with that. In the design phase, what does a tester do? The tester collaborates to understand design decisions and starts planning a test phase. So it's testers want to be involved in the design phase because yeah, they want to understand what they want to build. So that's where you ask your questions like, okay, that button you're putting there, why? Yeah, why is it not saying login? Why you just saying enter? Why not make it login? So that you understand why certain things are said the same way. So if yeah, that's what the tester contributes. Now in the coding phase, remember the coding phase is mostly for developers, but yeah, the testers are also involved some way. And in this phase, they coordinate with the developers. They try to understand unit tests. They don't write it. They just try to understand it. Like, okay, what are you testing? Are you testing these functions? Okay, do you test this part or test that this is this? And it's so like in the company I work for, the testers don't actually do this. Yeah, they don't do that. You understand? But yeah, it's good to know how to do that, or just ask the question like, okay, what part of the software are you testing using unit tests? But testers don't write it, and of course they prepare for system level testing. So they start even on at this stage because they're collaborating very close with the developers, asking questions where needed. Yeah, they start preparing their system test as well. Now the testing phase is actually for them, for you guys as testers. You execute your test cases, you identify defects, you ensure that the software meets users' requirements, and that's it. And any bugs you find, you send it back to developers. Um, Now the deployment phase, remember, that's the phase where, okay, everything is good. Now it's time to send to production. What does the software tester do? They assist in post-deployment validation. So every time, or most times, the software gets sent to deployment. We call the testers and we say, testers, we've launched the software. Can you perform a smoke test? Or can you perform a quick regression test? So yeah, the test will be like, okay, now it's in production. Just click here, register. Okay, all those basic things are working fine. Good. It's very good. So you see, the testers still assist in the deployment phase. Maintenance phase. In the maintenance phase, the tester monitors the issues that come in. So it's just more like, okay, if a bug comes in from the users, the testers go and try to reproduce it or try to check, okay, is it really a bug? And if it's a bug, they now create what you call an incident or a bug, and they send it to the the developers. And this is also to ensure that there is continued quality in the system or whatever software they have developed. It's a little bit of a lot of information, but I hope at least I'm trying to give you guys a clear picture of how this thing works. You understand? It's just quite interesting if you think about it. And everybody has their own role. You're going to be working with a team, and the testers are also, you can also see based on what we are talking about, testers are very important. You understand? Testers are more like very nosy. You're going to be taking up the job of a nosy person. Like, okay, why is that working that way? Okay, all right. I'm going to test it to see if anything breaks. And your job, like basically, what you're trying to find is mistakes. So you're gonna just try to do stuff that will create mistakes. Like even as far as where's that side again? What happens? Just think about things that could go wrong. What if I did this? Oh, okay, good. This works. This is okay. But what if you did that? You saw a bug and it did something. It crashed. Oh, you create a bug. So testers like try to test softwares well to make sure that um, yeah, they find bugs, but of course, it doesn't mean that testers find all the bugs. No, a lot of times bugs pass through. Even the companies that have the most money, bugs still pass through. And you know that of WhatsApp, you know that of Instagram. These are very, very big companies. But yeah, testers cannot see everything. So don't get all worked up like, yo, how did this test pass me or blah blah blah. No, it would. There are some tests, there are some bugs that just can even there's some bugs that only exist even only in production because of maybe the way the infrastructure is set up. But your job is to cover as much as possible or to replicate as much as possible what is expected and what could go wrong, and make sure that the software covers what could go wrong in a way that does not expose the software to potential risk or expose your company data to potential risk, or even make the usability of the software very, very annoying. You understand? So, and if users start finding your software annoying, what would they do? They would leave. They would go to a competitor. So that's why you see companies like Instagram. Instagram right now, Snapchat is sweating them up because they have to be on their A game. If they're not on their A game, if bugs start happening a lot in Instagram, people will just look for an alternative, and that's money going away. So testers are very, very important in this role. This is where we'll be stopping today. I will post this uh lab session to you for you guys for to do some exercise. Let me see for adding. Uh, okay, so let's see. All right, so this is just basically repeating what I've said, but the task is for adding a registration page to the Enquete.com website, create an SDLC chart. For each phase, outline the activity a tester would perform. So, yeah, this is just to help you guys remember what I said. Of course, I'm going to post this video later. You can look it up and also like think outside the box and see what other things, what other activities a tester is expected to perform. Do you guys have any questions? All right. No questions. So next week we'll be looking at black box, white box, and gray box testing. What are those? And that's going to be very exciting. And of course, I'm trying to give you guys a lot of these theories because a lot of this stuff we're talking about, a lot of these words are going to be coming out in the exams. That's some of you, if not all of you, will be taking. So write out these words. Try to understand them. If you don't understand them, ask. Sometimes I might be, mumbling a lot or confusing you. Uh, be sure to ask these questions because, yeah, you might come across them in the field. Do you have to know everything off head before you start testing? Absolutely not. But you have to know enough because when you're in a team, people talk or teams communicate using these keywords, and it's very important for you to understand what they're saying. That's why it's very important to practice this stuff. But like I said, you guys are already testers. We all are testers. We just didn't know that. But now you want to become a tester as a profession, which is very, very lucrative, and I think is a very good career path. So I'll send you guys out the lab sessions so you guys give it a try, and very, very soon as possible, we'll be working on some real life stuff. Chinoso's hands up. You have a question? All right. You have a question? Oh, okay.
Please, can you
All right.
just go back
I'm gonna
one
copy and
slide
paste this as well for you
behind?
guys. I think
Yeah.
it might also be interesting stuff. So don't forget, at least now, if anybody asks you guys have you guys heard of waterfall?
I wanted to
Please say
just read
yes.
something there. That's all.
And okay, yeah, say yes, and you try to. I hope my explanation was quite understandable. The most important thing you want to know about that waterfall method is the why it's so annoying and why companies had to leave it. It's just what I try to picture. Of course, there are quite details in it, but what I gave you right now is what you need to know about it and why nobody wants to use it. And of course, the agile scrum, what I told you as well, is what you want to know. You have the short sprints, the short iterations where products get delivered quickly. It's just products are getting delivered every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, new features are coming in instead of waiting for a whole year, 5 year before a particular product gets to the end user. Yeah. All right. So, Obina, your hands are up. Is that a question or? Okay. Okay. No worries. All right. So very exciting. Like I said, I'm already working on a project. You guys are gonna be testing for me. I'm rebranding this whole stuff, redesigning, and very soon
Again,
we will be
sorry, that's a
touching down.
mistake
And
again.
as soon as you guys get your hands on the manual testing, as soon as you guys are pretty good with it, automated testing will blow your head away. It will be so exciting. You guys will enjoy it so much. So a lot of things to look ahead. So do research. You see the way I'm trying to be very organic. I'm doing stuff. I'm googling. That's how that's how you just do it. Don't wait to be like, oh, I'm gonna ask Darlington or I'm going to wait to the next meeting before I check. No, just Google it. If you see a word that you're like, huh, I don't know what this word means, Google it. They're all over the internet. And if you now Google it and you don't understand it, just ask me. There's no problem. You understand? So I'll try to break it down as simplistic as possible. All right, so I wish you guys a very good weekend. I am very excited. I'm very happy you guys came through. I really enjoy giving this course, and you guys have a lovely weekend. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask. Um, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.